In this tutorial, we'll be making 3 different effects using the Point Animate by KIRI Engine add-on for Blender. The project files for all 3 scenes can be found bundled with the add-on, so make sure you download them if you want to do the same. Okay, let's go. We're going to start with a morphing effect to morph from a red flower into a blue flower, and then we can add some painterly compositing at the end. First, for a morphing effect, we need 2 models. We need an input or a start model and a target model. So I have a red flower and a blue flower, and they're both PLY files that were actually produced with the 3DGS scanning on the KIRI Engine app. And it's as simple as dragging and dropping them into Blender and hitting import. And there's a model, and the other one. There's a model. Now, this one's kind of messy, so I would like to go and clean up some points, delete them in edit mode, normal editing stuff, but I've already done that. And here are my 2 models here. Now you'll notice there's no faces, there's no edges, there's only vertices. So if I go into Material Preview, everything disappears, and my world is black, so that doesn't help. But if my world had some light, everything is invisible, because these vertices aren't actual Blender points yet. The add-on will take care of that. So I'm going to put both of my models on top of each other, and you'll see why in just a moment. And then I'm going to decide which one I want to be my start model, my input model. And I know this is my red flower, and I want this to be number 1. So I've selected it. I go to the Point Animate add-on on the end panel, and I'm going to hit Quick Morph from the quick presets. Now I can specify the start and end frame of the animation. 1 to 100 seems good. I can change this later if I want. And the object is a PLY file. It's only made of points, and we're transforming into a point object. So points to points is good. The target is made of points. It's not a mesh. And the object is the blue flower. And let's hit OK. And if we play our animation now, whoa, it's kind of crazy. But it is definitely morphing. I can see that my blue model is still hiding underneath, so I'm going to just disable that for now. And let's see what's happening. Okay, the noise is kind of crazy there, so I want to bring that down. And I can see that the points are really fat. So first thing I'll do is look at my point scale. And I want to bring the point size down. Something a bit more elegant. Okay, that'll do for now. Cool. Okay, everything's looking a bit dull. So I'm also going to add a light, just so I can see what I'm doing here. Okay, not too bad. Okay, now this noise is totally nuts, and the noise settings are always dependent on the model you're using, the scale, so they always need adjusted. But I can see morph is enabled, noise is enabled, and morph works pretty much out of the box. It goes from A and it goes to B. And that's it. Morph is fine. Our noise, let's go to the middle when the noise is crazy. Here we go. That's totally nuts. My timeline is 1 to 100. Let's change that here too. And so I can see that around 50, the noise will be at its strongest. So let's bring that noise strength down, maybe. And I can see right now the noise is controlled by attributes. The strength is going 0, 1, 0. So it's peaking in the middle, and that's good. I want that. And the noise scale is going 0, 1, 0. And this is multiplying the scale that we have set here. And let's see what happens if we have the noise scale go 0 to 1. So it's constantly changing. Okay, that's nicer. That's better. And the noise phase is sometimes a little bit chaotic. If your noise is too chaotic, just get rid of phase. So I'm going to remove that, play it again. Okay, that's less crazy. That's nicer. Okay. Let's play with our noise a bit more, something a bit more swirly. Okay, I like that. Now I'm going to add a camera so I can actually see what is within the camera bands. Oh, and we can see I've got some nodes in the compositor already set up. I'll disable those for now. And let's frame things up a little bit. And that light, if I use, and the light, there we go. And that light is way too strong. Let's bring that down. Okay, that'll do for now. I can see that the start, the input, red flower, takes up quite a lot of the frame. It's quite nice. The blue flower looks a bit small. So if I select the original blue flower model, whatever I do to this original will be reflected in the modifier. So I'm going to make that a bit bigger, give it a nicer framing. And obviously spend your time on this, make it nice. But that's better. Okay, and then hide the original again. Okay, cool. It's pretty cool. Okay, now for the painterly effect. Let's go to the compositor. And I already have these set up, but I'll show you the basic gist very quickly. If I have my top view being the compositor here, and make sure that my bottom view is the 3D viewport, I can use nodes in the compositor. Then in my 3D viewport, enable camera or always, so that I can see the results of the compositor live. If I disable this, I can't see what's happening. I'm going to enable camera, so I can see what's happening when I look through the camera. Now I have this node, the painterly node, the Kuwahara node. There we go. And it has a few modes and a few settings that you can play with, but here are some that work quite well for me. And if I slap this straight after my render layers, you get this beautiful painterly look. And especially with point clouds and point cloud animations, it looks great. It really turns these into kind of brushstrokes. Okay, cool. So that was a very quick demonstration. Now we'll move on to another morph effect, but this time do something a bit more complicated, a bit more involved. Okay, this time we're doing another morph effect. Now moving from this anatomical model, then sliding into a logo kind of design, and then ending with a complete morph transition. And this is super cool for any kind of logo reveal stuff that you want to do. And again, to start, we need at least two models. We needed an input and a target to morph to. But in this case, we're also going to use the snap to shape modifier. So we need a target for that. And I'm going to use this text object that I've converted to a mesh and made sure that it has some thickness. So I'm going to put my two morph models on top of each other in the middle of the scene. Then I'm going to hide the skeleton. I don't need to see him. I just need to know his name. His name is Skeleton. And using the add-on, I'm going to give this body blank modifiers using the add point animate modifiers. And now if I go to material view, there we go. He has color. And my point size seems okay for now. Not too bad, so I'll leave that. And from the modifier stack, I'm going to enable Morph. And then my active settings show the settings for Morph. So again, we are transforming from points to points, and our target is made of points, and our target, where is it? Skeleton. There we go. And let's see what happens on the timeline. Oh, I need to check the timeline settings. Right now I'm going from 10 to 90. So if my timeline's 100 frames long, that should do nicely. And we can see he's transforming. And then by the end of the timeline, he becomes a skeleton. Cool. Okay, so at the middle of our timeline, I want our text to be revealed. And we can do that with the snap to shape modifier. So I'm going to enable snap to shape. And I can see immediately something has happened. If I go to the snap to shape settings and preview shapes, I can see that I have a grid made of cylinders right now. And if I play with the effect strength and turn off preview shapes, I can see exactly what's happening. All the points are trying to find the closest shape on that grid that they can snap to. But I don't want to use cylinders, and I don't want a grid of shapes. So let's preview the shapes again. And let's say we only want 1 point for one single object. There's the object. And I don't want a cylinder, I want a custom object. And my custom object will be my text. And now there's my text, and it is super tiny. So let's go to the shape scale and let's make that bigger. Okay, that's better, much better. But if I now play with the effect strength, it's at his feet, which is not perfect. So I'm going to keep the effect strength at 1 so I can see what points are doing. And then I'm going to play with the shape, translate, rotate, and scale to put it into a better position. Okay, I'm bringing it up. This kind of looks good. Let's see where it is. It's in the middle. Let's bring it up some more, maybe. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And where is that on our guy? Okay, that's around his chest. So let's just see what happens if we, rather than controlling the effect strength ourselves, let's use an attribute. 0 on 0, 20%, 50%, 80%. So in the middle, the effect should be full for the snap, and then it will return back to 0. And this is multiplying this effect strength number. So let's go to 0. Cool, it's not snapped. If we go to the middle of the timeline, it's totally snapped. And we go to the end, it's not snapped, and the morph is complete. Awesome. So if we play it in motion, turn off motion blur, because EV motion blur is kind of weird when you play things back. Cool. All right, that looks really cool. Awesome. It looks kind of fuzzy when you play back, but if you actually stop on a particular frame, you can see it's just Blender trying to render in real time. But if you actually render this out, it'll look way cooler. And then, same as usual, check our world. My world has no lighting. So if I go to rendered view, add some lights, add a camera, and it's good to render. And if your computer, oh, I forgot I added camera animation, my bad. Let's say, there we go. There's our camera. And I've animated the camera to push into the text. And then as the text leaves, we pull back out and we see the full morph. And if your system is struggling and these effects are getting a bit much, or you also enable noise and wireframe and a bunch of stuff, use the bake settings. So if I go to Morph, for example, and I hit bake, I can see at the bottom of the timeline that effect is baking. And after the bake is complete, all the settings are grayed out, so I can't change them anymore, but they don't need to compute each frame. They should just play back much smoother. And if you want to go back and change settings, they're much smoother. If you want to go back and change settings, then you just hit the trash icon and the bake is deleted. Okay, for this effect, we're actually going to use two of our add-ons, but they're both free, so go get them. The first is, of course, Point Animate, as you know. But the second, as you can see with this object, is our 3D GS render add-on. If you don't have the add-on, it's totally free, and you can actually see it if you go from the Point Animate menu at the bottom, see all add-ons on Blender Market. If I hit this, it should open a page with all of our add-ons. And you can see on our page here, 3D GS Render by KIRI Engine. It's totally free, so go grab it. I won't explain fully how to use that add-on here. There are videos and documentation on our channel for that add-on specifically. But basically, I have a PLY file, and this was from a 3D.js scan. And if I use the 3D.js add-on, I can import that object. And if I import that object, it looks like this. It is a Gaussian splat object right now. So I've imported it here as a 3D.js object, as Gaussian splats. And if I also import it as a regular PLY file, we can see that their rotations are different. That's fine. If I just line things up a minute. Okay, they're all lined up, but she is huge. So let's bring that down a bit. Now she's tiny. Here we go. That's about good. And I'm going to make it so she's facing us. And for the 3D.js object, I'm going to enable updates, update it to view, not in orthographic mode. Okay, cool. So she looks good. I'm going to get rid of these examples for now. Okay, so I have my 3D.js Gaussian splat object on top of my points. And there are my points. I'm going to hide the points for a moment and look at my 3D.js object. So I can see some of the splats are a little bit big, a little bit crazy. So I'm going to quickly use the 3D.js add-on from modify edit, remove stray, remove stretch faces, and get rid of those big faces. It's not really necessary, but why not? I'll apply that. Color edit, don't need it, get rid of it. Decimate, camera cull, don't need them, get rid of them. Crop box, we need. So we want to crop this object so that it looks like it's dissolving along with our points. So I'm going to add a wire cube, a cube that won't render. And I could do that from the 3DGS add-on, or I can do it from Point Animate, from the effectors. I'll do it from Point Animate. Hit the cube, and I have a cube. So I'm going to go to the start of my timeline and bring my cube up just above our head. And I'm going to keyframe its location. At the end of my timeline, I'll bring the cube down and I'll keyframe it again. So my cube moves down throughout the model. Then I can specify that cube as the crop object. Wire cube 1. Yes, wire cube 1. There we go. And now as the cube comes down, our object is being cropped. So as this object disappears, we want the points to start emitting and start dissolving. So let's grab our point object. I'm going to hide the 3DGS for now. Look at our points and give the points the Point Animate modifiers. Actually, I can do it quickly. I can just use quick dissolve. Why not? Start frame and end frame. Okay. Input equals points. Yes. Okay. Now, if I play, the points are going this way. And that's weird. Why is that? I can see that rotation is not applied and scale is not applied. So this is our object's z-axis. So let's hit Ctrl A and apply rotation and scale. Let's play that again. Now the points are going up. Cool. Okay, I can see her points are pretty chunky. Bring that down a little bit. Okay. And right now the selection for the wind modifier, how is that being controlled? Let's check. Wind modifier. And the selection is timeline 0, 1. So slowly all the points are joining the timeline. And that's okay, but I only want them to be joining if they're inside this cube. So let's go to masking. Turn on inside is animated. Mask by object, yes. And select the cube as our object. Let's play again. Okay, cool. Good. Okay, that's very good. And actually the wind is pretty good too. It's not bad. Okay, let's see what it looks like with our 3DGS model on top of it. It's pretty cool. I'd say it's too fast. So I could adjust the timeline settings, but the overall effect is pretty cool. Let's look at our real world lighting, our no lighting in our world. And I've got a little point light here. Let's see what it looks like. Now, this is a problem. I can see my points at the beginning before they've started to emit. And that's a bit annoying. So if I select my points and look at their scale, they're going from 1 to 0. So the beginning of the timeline, they're at full size. I don't want that. I could control them by age, so they only appear as they get older. I could make them appear if they join the wind simulation. I'm going to make them go from 0 to 1 to 0. So they will slowly appear and then disappear towards the end. And let's see how that looks. Cool, that's cool, but our points are disappearing too fast. So I can actually to make them disappear slower, I can make the end frame for the Point Animate modifiers. Let's try 200. That's maybe too long. Let's try 150. Okay, that's pretty cool. You get the idea. You could spend much more time doing this. I've done it incredibly quickly, but it looks pretty good. Cool. Cool. Don't forget that the project files for all of these scenes are totally free, and so is the add-on. So if you want to grab the files and make something cool, the links are in the description.